Part 4. It was the day the 10th standard board exam results were to be announced. After the last exam, Srimati had told her mother that she had done fairly well. She was not the kind who would exaggerate because it because be it success or disappointment. Shrikant had told his mother that he had done extremely well and was also expecting a rank. More than Srimati, her friends who had bet on many things were worried. Even the teachers were wondering what rank Srimati and Shrikant would get. They were undoubtedly the most talented students in the school. Either way, the school would get the credit of getting a rank. At home, Gangakka and Rindakka were waiting to know the results too. Srimati was the only one who was not at all perturbed. She was neither bent upon doing better than Shrikant, nor did she look upon her success as a matter of family honor and pride. It was true that she was brighter than Shrikant, but exam results did not always reflect or depend upon intelligence. Though Srimati was so young, she had the equanimity of an ascetic. Over the years, she had sometimes scored more than Shrikant, at others, he had beaten her scores. She had taken it in her stride, so that day's outcome did not hold any anxiety for her. But Shrikant was restless and impatient for the result. Holding a Bakula in his palm, he was wondering why he was fascinated by this tiny flower. The flower neither the flower was neither as beautiful as rose, nor had the fragrance of jasmine or champaka. And yet it was always very special to him. It held an inexplicable attraction for him. Shrikant remembered many ancient stories that connected the Bakula with romance. It seemed in the olden days when young men traveled far distances for many days, they would carry small objects in memory of their loved ones. The Bakula flower was one such memento that these young men carried, because even though it would dry up, it would still give out the same fragrance like the beloved's love. Without realizing it, Shrikant had come to associate the Bakula flower with Srimati. It is true that they hardly ever spoke to each other, but it was equally true that there was a strange attraction between them. Perhaps it was their age, adolescence, or the teasing of their friends, or just the way their names conjugated. Of course, it was Shrikant who was more attracted towards Srimati than she was to him, though Shrikant was the more extroverted of the two, and he often wondered what was in Srimati's mind. He wasn't outspoken enough to ask her. Only Shrikant and Gangakka were at home. Gangakka was aware that the results were due to come, and so she thought she would light ghee lamps to please the gods. There was a lot of ghee at home, and since Shrikant would not eat it, Gangakka used it for the lamps. There was a knock on the door, and when Gangakka saw it was the postman bearing a telegram, she became very nervous. It reminded her of her husband's death. For her, a telegram would always bring bad news. Holding the telegram in her hand, she prayed to God to forgive her for using the rancid ghee and promised that she would use the fresh one if this telegram did not turn out to bear bad news. In a trembling voice, she called Shrikant and handed the telegram to him. Shrikant, here is a telegram. See whether it is from Bayadagi. Baidhagi was the small village where her daughter Rama stayed with her husband, Krishna. Gangaka could think only of her daughter. Her horizon was extremely limited. Shrikant was equally curious to know what it was. He opened it quickly, glanced through it, and said to his mother in delighted voice, Ava, this telegram is from the Bangalore SSLC board. I have stood second in the entire board. Gangaka did not understand what that meant. All she was interested was in whether he was first in the school. Shrikant, are you first in your school or not? Have you scored more than Srimati, who has taken the first place? Shrikant smiled at his mother's ignorance. Ava, I have stood second in the entire state and ought to be first in the holy center. And of course, our school. I don't know about Srimati, but she wouldn't have scored more than me. You know, now I can get a full scholarship and you need not struggle for my education. Shrikant was very happy indeed. Gangaka remembered her late husband and her eyes became moist. Shrikant, Lord Malyar, Malyara Linga has blessed us. He has always been kind to you. But Shrikant was still getting used to the idea of having done so well. He had never expected to get second rank. At the most, he was expecting to be one among the first 20. Now he was most curious as to who had got the first rank. It must be someone from Mysore or Bangalore, he thought. Then his thought turned into Srimati. What rank had she got? A tap on his shoulder shook him out of his reverie. He turned around to see his mother, his teacher, Mr. Kulkarni. He was beaming with pride. His usual pan-stained mouth was usually clean to that day. In his happiness, he seemed to have forgotten to eat his pan. Thumping Shrikant on his back, he said, Shrikant, you both have made a record. In the entire history of the school, such a thing has not happened. The board has informed us that Srimati has stood first and you second. You have given us wonderful reward for having taught you. Generally, the first and second ranks do not go to the same school, but we have been fortunate to be the first school to get the top two places in the same year. Shrikant's mind went numb. Mr. Kulkarni's chatter continued, but Shrikant did not hear a word. Had a thunderbolt struck him or had he touched a live wire? He couldn't believe what Mr. Kulkarni had told him. His bubble of happiness vanished and he was close to tears. But he controlled himself. Men were not supposed to shed tears in front of others. He felt like Arjuna in Mahabharata, who was so focused on his archery skills that if he ever missed his aim, he suffered unbearably agony. Just then Gangaka came in and told Kulkarni said that he must at least have some sweets since he had brought the good news. But he said that he wanted to go and see Srimati and that he would come back later. Absent-mindedly, Shrikant said namaskar to his teacher and went back to his own thoughts. His mind was breaking him. Shrikant Deshpande, you have missed your target. You have dismissed Srimati as a merry girl. But silently and soberly, that girl has given you a powerful answer. She has shown you what is she capable of. Shrikant tried to analyze the reason for his unhappiness and disappointment. What had gone wrong? Actually, nothing had gone wrong. The cause for his disappointment was her success. Though he had scored more marks than he had expected or hoped for, Srimati had scored more than him. Was he ever going to be free of this Srimati? Would she always be a challenge to him, and in her calm, smiling way defeat him? What would he say to Ravi and Malesh now? After boasting to them that he was smarter than her? Shrikant's gaze turned involuntarily to Srimati's house. He could see Srimati, dressed as usual in cotton sari, a string of Bakula flowers tucked in her long plait, her only adornment. She was engrossed in a conversation with her friends Sharda and Vandana. What were they talking about? Were they laughing at his defeat? Was she gloating over her success? Shrikant was getting more and more agitated. Just then he saw his group of friends led by Malesh and Ravi approaching his house. Malesh had a garland in his hand. Shrikant went out to meet them and Malesh garlanded him. Then in a low tone he said, "Congratulations, Shrikant. She may be first, but you are the first among the boys." Shaking hands with Shrikant, Ravi said, "Come on, Malya. Did we know that Shrikant would get the second rank? This is indeed a bonus for us." "So what if Shrikant has not got the first rank this time? He will definitely get it next time. Haven't you heard the famous poem? Try and try again, boys. You will succeed at last." Malya laughed. Yes, yes. The poem is specially written for boys. Patting Ravi on the back, he said, "Now let's not be jealous. Isn't she our classmate too? Has she not brought glory to our school? As far as I can see, we have made a lot of fun of her, but she hasn't retaliated even once. We should go and congratulate her. Shrikant, you must also come. I am sure there will not be any problem." Srimati had surprised. Srimati had been surprised to see the telegram informing her about her first rank. She had never ever expected that. When her mother had asked her about her performance in the exam, she had casually said that she had done fairly well. The first rank made her really happy, but she kept her cool. Actually, it was her friends who were absolutely thrilled, particularly Sharda, because Srimati's success was a one up in the girls' camp and one down in the boys' camp. Vrindaka, who had looked down upon Srimati all these years because she was not as fair as good looking as herself, was very pleased that her granddaughter had done better than her neighbor's son. Suddenly her tone changed. "After all, she is my granddaughter," she said with pride in her voice. "She had inherited my intelligence." Srimati's father, Shrikant Deshpande, too, was beaming with happiness and was very proud of his daughter's performance. He behaved as though he was responsible for it. Kamala had a look of peace and satisfaction on her face, but in Srimati there was absolutely no change. When Srimati saw the group of her classmates coming towards her house, she wondered what they wanted, what would happen. She wasn't curious to know Shrikant's marks, though not first rank. She was sure he would have also got very good marks. She quickly warned her friends and people at home not to say anything to Shrikant. After all, an examination is not the index of in life. It is just matter of luck at that moment. I do not want to hurt anybody when they come home to our house, she said. Sharda was not most displeased with this remark. So, फिर मज़ा आ गया। श्रीकांत का तो सेकंड रैंक आया, और क्योंकि वो सोचता था कि लड़कियां सिर्फ हिस्ट्री में ही ज़्यादा टैलेंटेड है, तो इसको बोलते हैं मुँह की खाना। चलिए, अभी स्टोरी और ज़्यादा इंटरेस्टिंग होने वाली है, तो फिर बने रहिए मेरे साथ, है ना। तब तक के लिए बाय, गुड नाइट।